Again, thanks to the witnesses for being here, and I'll yield myself now 5 minutes. So, Mr. Salgado, in your written statement, you said one should take little solace in the provisions of the Cloud Act. First, they will still allow for incidental and inadvertent collection of Americans' data subject to certain minimization requirements. Can you expand on that for me, please?
Sure. We touched on that a little earlier in the hearing, and specifically Mr. Nojime's reference to inadvertent and incidental collection, where the UK can use the Cloud Act to obtain data from American companies, and inadvertently or incidentally, that data could include U.S. persons' data or data about people in the United States. There are some, as I mentioned in the written testimony, there are restrictions on the UK in its use and dissemination of that information, and it has some minimization requirements, which is a phrase you may be familiar with from Section 702 and FISA generally. So that's what I was referring to.
That's what I thought you were referring to, and one of the things that I find interesting about that is, having met with UK Home Office within the last 6 weeks, I am concerned about their processes on what they actually do and their transparency or lack of transparency with this incidentally collected data. And that's part of the problem that we have with the 702 application as well. So, Ms. Wilson-Palau, you indicated that you disagree that the UK's safeguards are as robust as they claim, but that is because that is beside the point, because your concern about TCNs is that once a backdoor is created, states with far less stellar records on human rights, such as Russia and China, could seek similar access through legal process. You've talked about that a little bit. I'd like you to expand on that and then ask each of the members of the panel to also expand on that.
Certainly. So once this backdoor is built, once end-to-end encryption is broken, any state using their legal process, no matter whether or not it is as rights-respecting as we would hope it would be, can then ask Apple for access to this data, because once it's broken, it's not just broken for the UK to access the data or for the US to access the data. Any country could request it, and a lot of countries have surveillance regimes that would allow them to make these sort of requests.
But it isn't just countries that would request, is it? It's also rogue actors that might be able to access those backdoors as well, right?
That's exactly right.
So rather than ask each of you to expand on that, what I'm going to ask instead is, my position would be that DOJ, without immediate transparency and opening up of the process, the TCN that's going on with Apple, that they immediately issue the 30-day termination notice. That's just my position. Does anybody there agree with me on the panel?
I think that would be a good tactic. They could issue the notice. They say, we're going to terminate in 30 days unless you withdraw this order to Apple. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's a leverage point. Yeah, Professor?
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. Anybody, Mr. Salgado?
No, I don't disagree with that at all. I think there's a lot of negotiating strategies here. This agreement is important to the UK, and I think they would come to the table.
Ms. Wilson-Palau?
I agree that this is an important moment to pressure the UK, because if we don't push back now, then the UK may issue many more of these orders in the future, entirely in secret, and we won't know about them.
Yeah, I think that's my point, is that it's hanging out there. We don't know enough about what's happening. There's this, I think the legal term is penumbra of, there's a penumbra of information floating around out there that we hear about, but we need to nail it down and really take action on it. So the next step is, and I'm going to ask each of you this, and we have a minute left, so each have about 15 seconds. What two things do you think we need to do to improve the Cloud Act? So you, Mr. Nojim.
Amended to make it so that no such order can be issued by another country that gets one of these agreements. Amended to make it so that a country can't get an agreement unless its laws prohibit such orders.
Thank you. Mr. Salgado.
I would adopt Mr. Nojime's and add two more, one being that the providers be allowed to notify the U.S. government when they receive orders under this act or technical capability notices, and that Congress receive more frequent reporting from the Department of Justice on the operation of the acts that are in place.
The oversight, yes. Ms. Wilson-Palau.
I would adopt Mr. Salgado and Mr. Nojim's recommendations.
Thank you. Professor?
I would adopt all three recommendations. I would add that, as Mr. Salgado mentioned earlier, cybersecurity and network security be part of the criteria in deciding whether or not to enter into an agreement. I don't disagree about privacy being fundamental and important, but I think there's a really strong lever about cybersecurity and network security that should be used.
Thank you so much. We've exhausted our time, which is a crying shame because there's so much more to get at with this subject. I appreciate each of you and your testimony. It's important testimony. This is an important, here's the thing about Congress. If there was a bunch of money on the table, this room would be filled and everybody would be here. But on this type of issue, which is actually critical to the country and national security, you see what happens. It's a sad, sad revelation about the United States Congress today. We appreciate all of you being here. Thank you so much, and we will undertake your recommendations and move forward with those very much. Thank you.